Hi, I'm Anita Dille, and I'm a professor at Kansas State University in the Department of Agronomy. Today I talked about how we can use cover crops to suppress weeds. And so some of the key things that I want to emphasize in that presentation is, do you know when the weed species that you're concerned about is emerging, so that you know what cover crop you can select and plant at the right time that get into the field before that weed is going to be emerging and growing, so it can outcompete that weed. So that's one of the main take-homes, knowing what weed species you have that you're worried about. So the second point that I want to make is understanding what your crop rotation is and how to fit the cover crop into that sequence, and then also tie that in with what weed species you're concerned about. And the third one is really thinking about time of planting, maybe changing when you plant your crop so that you can fit that cover crop in there, and then being aware of how to terminate the cover crop in the end. And there's still a lot of questions on that in regards to, should I terminate 2 weeks early? Do I green plant? What do I do after that? And how does that interact with all the things we want to do when we produce our crops? So there was standing room only in the session, in the sense that there were a lot of people interested in how can I manage my weeds and maybe use cover crops for that. And one of the unique questions that I've been getting lately is about how rye as a cover crop produces allelopathic chemicals. And these are chemicals that are released by the plant as it's decaying, and just how much weed control can we get out of that, in addition to just having that presence of the crop, that residue that's there. So not just the residue, but also these allelopathic chemicals. And so that's still a good research question that we have, and there's a lot of interest in that. As this session was still near the beginning, it was a lot of fun to hear what the farmers were describing as part of their systems in the farmer panel, to give me a sense of some of the questions that may come up during my session on weed suppression. I was excited that one of the first audience questions that came out of the farmer panel was about weeds, and so we know that's on their mind, and so I'm just glad that I could share that information with the group. One of the other challenges with planting cover crops and fitting it into a crop rotation is knowing what other integrated weed management steps that the grower's using, and we're really recommending using pre-emergence herbicides that tend to have a residual life, and so needing to know if that herbicide is still present, say after the main crop is done and you go plant your cover crop, and you want to make sure that you're going to have success. And so we're building a lot more databases and information on that crop rotation restriction and knowing which cover crops will be safe after those pre-herbicides. One of the important things for growers to know is what weed species they're worried about and the order of emergence that they come up in the field. And so I reported on a study that showed sort of that pattern of emergence for a lot of our summer annual weeds. And it was interesting that in that list, Palmer amaranth was not yet there as a species they were studying. The study was done in Iowa. The original data was collected like in early 2000, and Palmer was just not an issue. Water hemp, redroot pigweed were species in that list. But now we have seen in the last few years how Palmer has just really spread throughout the Midwest, and is really a concern for a lot of growers. Whether it's resistant or not, it's a very aggressive pigweed. So we just are interested in also looking across the state of Kansas on Palmer amaranth emergence timing. So these talks give me a chance to come up with new research ideas, and so that's what we're also investigating for the future. The presentation that I gave will be up on soilhealthu.net, and in there is my email contact and Twitter handle, and so if there are questions, be free to contact me, and I can direct you to the resources where we have collected this kind of information and building up our database.